Does Boots Ennis need Vergil Ortiz? When I first saw that question when it was posed to me, I thought, honestly, a bit. He kind of does at this point because he's not fought any big names at 154. Of course, he just knocked out Lima in the first round. He was a heavy favourite going into that fight. But no, I don't think anyone was expecting a first round knockout. And Boots looked amazing because, again, Boots is an amazing boxer. But does he need Ortiz? Everyone's saying that fight should be next for both guys. Ultimately, the Ortiz fight is a great fight. And that is, in my opinion, the two best guys at 154. Ortiz and Boots. I think Boots wins because I think Boots beats everyone at 154. I think he's the best in the division at 154. But does he need Ortiz? He doesn't need Ortiz. That's the reality. He doesn't need Ortiz because anyone... It's going to sound kind of crazy, but I have Boots beating any of the world champions at 154. Like, it's not like Ortiz is Boots' only route to a world championship. He could fight Fundora for a world championship. I think he'd beat Fundora. And that would be an amazing fight. Probably better than an Ortiz fight. That would be an amazing fight, but he could beat Fundora for a world title. There's Murtazaev as well, who hasn't fought in a year, who I recently made a video about, and he's down to fight everyone. Seemingly. He's calling out everyone. But again, the risk to reward for a Murtazaev fight isn't really there. And arguably, Murtazaev is the most dangerous guy at 154 after he beat the brakes off of Tim Tszyu. But even in that fight, you've got to say Boots is going to be sort of the heavier favourite out of the two. But Ortiz is a great fight because commercially as well. Ortiz is a big name. He's fought the likes of Vergil and Madrimov and those guys. Whereas Boots hasn't really fought any big names at 154. He's only fought once at 154. Of course, beat the likes of Stanionis at 147. That's a great win because Stanionis was a guy who was so definitely world level. Definitely world level, undefeated world champion, and Boots absolutely dominated him. Beat the brakes off of the dude, right? So there's no doubt, in my opinion, Boots is level. But I agree that he needs to be in a big fight next. Whether that's WBA champion Abbas Baru, whether that's Xander Zayev, the 23-year-old who's champion, whether that's Ortiz, whether that's Fundora, whether that's Murtazaev. But undoubtedly, he should be looking for a world title fight next. He doesn't need to be fighting for anything other than a world title. I think the Ortiz fight does make a lot of sense and would be a huge fight at 154. And I think Boots beats him because you look at a guy in Ortiz this guy who I believe got dropped by Bahaychuk and had more than his hands full with Madrimov. Again, these aren't bad boxers at all. These are still guys who are definitely top end at 154. But then you look at Boots, and I just think Boots is just levels beyond those guys. And I really rate Madrimov, by the way. I really rate Madrimov. But I think Boots is better than both those guys. And a boxing math doesn't always work. Obviously, just because you struggle with one guy doesn't mean you're going to lose to this guy. It doesn't work like that because styles make fights. But I think Ortiz is hittable. And Boots can punch. Do you know what I mean? I think Ennis is far, far less hittable. Probably the least hittable guy at the top at 154. Right? And we saw against Lima, he can put your lights out. Or not maybe put your lights out, but he can stop you. If he can land big shots on you early, then he'll get you out of there. Right? Whereas Ortiz is more of a pressure fighter. Well, when he wants to be. He wasn't... And that was part of the problem against Madrimov, where he was trying to be like a slick boxer puncher for the start of that Madrimov fight. Madrimov was just outboxing him because that's not his game. Sort of back end of that fight, once Ortiz realised, yeah, I'm Vergil Ortiz, and started to apply that pressure and box how Vergil Ortiz boxes, then he was able to start to pick up that momentum against Madrimov and get the win. But if you start a fight like that against Boots and you're getting outboxed, that might be the end of the fight for you. Even if you try to change your game plan, Ennis is just going to run rings around you, bro. So, to answer the question, does Boots need Ortiz? No, I don't think he does. But that should still be definitely the next fight for both guys. Like, that's the fight everyone wants to see. It's so obvious to me. It's obvious to everyone. I'm sure it's obvious to Golden Boy and Matchroom. That's the fight everyone wants to see. Ortiz and Boots. So, hopefully that fight gets made for early 26 because Boots... just coming off a first round knockout, so he's capable of having a quick turnaround. Let's see how Ortiz does in his next fight against Lumin. If he can get him out of there, or even if he goes the distance, he doesn't take too much damage, then again, he could be back in there for early 2026. So, we'll see. I'd be curious to know what you guys think of that fight. And curious to know your opinion on that in general. Do you think Boots needs Ortiz? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest in the bag, and I'm out. Peace.